हाँ, प्राची.
Good evening to one and all. On the behalf of Dr. G.D. Paul Foundation and Department of Kriya Sharir, I, Dr. Prachi Jadhav, PG Scholar from Kriya Sharir Department, welcome you all on the fourth day of National Webinar Series, Hridspandanam, Cardiac Electrophysiology. I request our today's speaker, Dr. Dr. Pardeshi sir, to deliver his lecture. Over to you, sir.
Thank you. I welcome you all on this fourth day of series on cardiac electrophysiology. And today we will discuss about acute coronary syndromes. In simple language or in layman's language, this acute coronary syndrome is called as a heart attack. And you must be knowing that this is one of the burning issue, one of the major causes for mortality as well as morbidity. And as far as Indian scenario is concerned, the number of people or patients suffering from ischemic heart disease is rising day by day. So it becomes vital and important to know about this particular entity, and collectively the diseases related to the heart attack or the types of coronary artery involvement, they are called as acute coronary syndrome, and we will study today what this actually is. Now, can you all see this slide? And what is there? This is a blood vessel or artery. And what is there inside this? In the language of Ayurveda, this is a strotorod. So this is a rasavaha or raktavaha strotas, and there is a occlusion. Strotorod in our language, it is a strotorod, and in modern physiology or clinical medicine, this is a plaque, and this plaque is of atherogenic material, or this can be called as atheroma also. So what this plaque is doing, this plaque is causing obstruction to the blood flow. Normally our blood flow is a laminar. Now when there is obstruction, the blood flow becomes turbulent, and this turbulence is something which can cause platelets to adhere to this area, and as one platelet comes and sticks here, then there will be another 100,000 platelets. They will be invited and they will get aggregated at that place, causing increase in the number of platelets. So gradually over the period of months or years, what will happen? This plaque will grow in size. The bad cholesterol, which is LDL and thrombi, all they will come and will settle here, and they will further increase that occlusion. So there will be progression in strotorod, and one day what will happen? This plaque will become vulnerable, and because of this shear stress, which is big because of the flowing column of blood and the demand of a tissue from this area as far as the blood supply is concerned, that will cause this plaque to rupture, and that rupture of plaque will lead to dislodgement of plaque from this area, and that will get flown to nearby area and will cause complete occlusion of this vessel. This means that there is 100% stenosis, and this will lead to reduction in the blood flow to the area where this vessel is carrying the blood. So that area or that tissue or that organ will develop hypoxia, and this hypoxia will be because of ischemia. So I hope this is clear, because based on this further understanding is dependent. So what will happen if there is no physiological current, or if the current is flown from the area which are injured? So when we say injury, it means that there is some damage to the tissue. And in case of acute coronary syndrome or ischemic heart disease, this injury is because of a hypoxia, because that area is devoid of a blood flow. There is no blood flow. So if there is no blood flow or diminished blood flow, if the blood flow is not matching with the demand that tissue is asking for, then eventually there will be hypoxia. Then hypoxia means decreased number of ATP, decreased number of oxygen molecules, decreased number of glucose molecules. So that area will not be able to perform its normal function, and there will be a sort of a injury or inflammation. And that injured area then will not be able to carry the current or propagate the current as healthy heart muscle is doing. So there will be difference in conduction of impulse as far as a healthy heart is concerned and as far as injured heart is concerned. So the injured area of a heart or myocardium which carries a current, that is labeled as a current of injury. So cardiac abnormalities that damage the heart muscle itself often cause part of the heart to remain partially or totally depolarized all the time. So what happens whenever there is an injury, that area of a heart where there is an injury will remain in a state of permanent depolarization. So this is important. If this is left ventricle and this is an infarcted area where there is a myocardial infarction, this is infarcted area injury. So this area will remain depolarized, means inside the area will be positive and there will be a negativity around this area. So this area remaining in a permanent state of depolarization will have its own problem, because our normal current was flowing in this direction from negative to positive. Now this injured area is positive inside and negative outside, so it will also have a tendency to carry the current from positive to negative direction. So it will be sending the signals in this direction. That means this injured area will be carrying the current away from the vector. So it will be recorded by an ECG in abnormal fashion. So usually when there should be a R wave, there will not be this R wave, because R wave is projecting itself above the isoelectric line, means there is a positive deflection. But if this happens, if this kind of diverted traffic happens, then that will not lead to formation of a QRS complex above isoelectric line, and that will be formation of a QRS complex below isoelectric line. This means that there will be no R wave, and it will be seen that there is a Q wave in ECG whenever there is a current of injury. This current of injury is because of the current flowing between the pathologically depolarized area. Now, this is not healthy or physiological depolarization. This is a pathological depolarization, and this injured part of the heart is negative. The surrounding of this part is a negative because that is depolarized and emits negative charges into the surrounding fluid. And whereas rest of the heart relatively remains positive. So this is a physiological concept behind this current of injury. I hope this is clear to all. Then what are the conditions which can cause the current of injury to generate? So it can be a mechanical trauma also, which sometimes make the membrane remain so permeable. Trauma will cause damage to the vessel, and the vessels can become then more leaky. And because of this leakiness, it is possible that they cannot repolarize completely. So in that situation, current of injury will be there. Some sort of infections of a muscle membrane like myocarditis. And then most common, which we are discussing today, is ischemia. Ischemia or ischemia, whatever you pronounce it. Ischemia of local areas of heart muscle caused by local coronary occlusion, as I told you. And this is most common cause of current of injury in the heart. So this also we have discussed that during ischemia, not enough nutrients from the coronary blood supply are available into the heart muscle to maintain normal membrane polarization. Yes. So this is how the ECG is recorded. These are the lead placement as we have discussed this over last 3 days. And as we are talking about current of injury today, so we will focus most of our discussion onto that particular area only. So again, we will review here. Flow of current from damaged area to the normal area of heart between heartbeats, it's called current of injury. Then damaged area is not always a dead area. It can be a viable, it can be semi-viable, or it can be a non-viable also. And this always remain in a state of a depolarization. Vector of injury, current points towards normal part of the heart, which is a positive as compared to this damaged area. And this base of the vector lies in damaged area of the heart, which is negative. Apart from this, there is a rupture or damage to the cell membrane, which is causing leakage of the ions out of that vessel, which again is a problem as far as repolarization is concerned, because there has to be enough number of potassium ions available so as to initiate the repolarization. But if the vessels are damaged, if there is some trauma, then the leakiness or leakiness to potassium increases, or potassium can get oozed out or carried out of the vessels, and that can cause diminished number of potassium ion inside the vessel, and that can be a problem, which is a peculiar case with the state of a repolarization. And in such cases, repolarization is not complete. And if the repolarization is not complete, then that S wave will not approach the T wave, and it will remain elevated. That we will see how it happens. So this is ECG. Once we should have a look to this graph paper. Vertical line represents what? Amplitude or voltage.
Voltage,
And horizontal line?
time,
Time. So with what speed this paper is running?
300 per
Huh?
25 mm per second.
Yes, 25 mm per second. So whenever we start recording ECG, we must remember that it is calibrated. The machine is calibrated. The speed of the paper is set at 25 millimeter per second, and the voltage is set at 1 millivolt per 10 mm. Because if it is set in some other parameters, then recording of the waveform will vary and you will not be able to interpret it. So the normal rate is 25 millimeter per second. And if I record ECG with this speed, and if the heart rate is 60 beats per minute, what would be the heart rate if I set the recording at 55 millimeter per second? Sorry, 50 millimeter per second in a same patient?
120.
No,
30 beats per minute.
30 beats. 30 beats हो जाएगा, बराबर है? 30 beats हो जाएगा. So what your diagnosis will be? Your diagnosis will be sinus bradycardia. But in fact, is the patient having sinus bradycardia? No, because it was a wrong calibration with which the machine was set, which has caused a error with recording. The patient's heart rate is 60, but your ECG is showing it as a 30 beats minute. This is because you have set it in a wrong way. So that's why it becomes important every time you see an ECG to check what calibrations have been set by the recorder. Sometimes ECG can automatically change these parameters, the speed and voltage both. If this voltage is set to 0.5 millivolt per 10 mm, then all the complexes of QRS will be recorded with a low voltage, which again can be a confusion. So that's why it is imperative or important to see or ensure that the calibration is checked before recording the ECG. Even if you are reading ECG from outside, which has been recorded by someone else, that time also you should see whether the calibration was done or whether those parameters are set in the way they should be. So as far as ischemia is concerned, there are 3 I's. First is ischemia, means lack of oxygenation. Another, second one is injury, and third is infarct. So we can say this is mild, this is moderate, and this is severe. So as the degree of ischemia increases, as the time over which that myocardium remains under reduction or reduced blood flow, in that extent or in that proportion, the injury will increase. As injury increases, the chances of getting that muscle necrosed increase. And once that necrosis occur, it is called as an infarction. So what infarction is? Infarction is irreversible cell death. Irreversible cell death. When the necrosis occurs, we term that as a infarct. So this is pronounced as infarction. Infarction. It is infarct. F-A-R-C-T. It is not infract. Many of our students write this term. This is wrong. The term is infarction. And what is infarction? Infarction is an irreversible cell death because of sudden total occlusion of a coronary artery. So this is a definition of infarction. So injury is a mid step. An infarction is end step or end stage of a severe ischemia. So the problem will begin with ischemia. And the moment the patient starts developing ischemia, he will experience some sort of a symptoms like mild chest pain or heaviness in chest or dyspnea on walking or on climbing up the stairs or after heavy meal, after taking heavy meal. And that time patient will experience that he's getting dyspnea. There is some sort of a chest discomfort. If he ignores this symptom, then that ischemia will progress and that will cause injury to the myocardium, to the myofibril, to the cells of a myocardium or a heart. And if that progresses further, then that will be causing infarction. So during each of these stages, the ECG will give you some sort of a signals from which you can identify whether the patient is having ischemia, injury, or infarction. So when there is ischemia, there is usually ST segment depression or T wave inversion. When there is an injury, which is a form of or a result of a prolonged ischemia, there will be ST segment elevation. And once necrosis occurs, there will be Q wave in the ECG. All the infarctions will not have Q wave, but majority of the infarcts will have Q wave in the ECG. So we have 3 type of a scenario over here. One is ST segment depression or T wave inversion. Second is ST segment elevation, and third is Q wave formation. Right? So what is this wave? P wave. And when this P wave is formed, students?
Depolarization.
Depolarization of atria. So this is a P. What is this wave? Q. So first negative deflection in ECG is Q. And the Q wave is not seen in all leads. But if it is seen and if it is small, less than 2 mm or so, then it is a physiological Q wave. So first negative deflection after P wave is Q wave. This is R. So R wave is a waveform above isoelectric line. So all this area is R. Many of the students, they think that this is R, this only is R. It is not the case. And this is S. No. Whole complex above this isoelectric line is R wave. So this is a Q and this is R. This complete is R. And R wave continues to S wave. The area which is continuing R wave and is going below isoelectric line, that is a S wave. So in this ECG, this is a S wave, right? And this is a T wave. What T wave represents? T wave represents ventricular repolarization. So our today's talk or discussion will be focused on these 2-3 waves. This you should keep and remember this area and this. So at this point, can you see the sharpness over here? This? Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
Yes,
Yes,
this
sir.
is coming or this is sharp. You can tell from, you can tell the point from where this S wave is ending and this ST segment is starting. You can clearly identify that point which separates the S wave from rest of the ST segment. So this point is important, this, right? And this segment is important. We will see how this is important. So this is a segment which will be a core area of discussion of our topic today. So what this segment is? ST segment. End of a S and beginning of a T, the line joining on the isoelectric line is ST segment. So if we combine all these waveform, this is how the ECG will look like. PQRST. And in standard leads, especially in leads 1 and ABL, if there is a small Q wave, it means that this Q wave is representing septal depolarization, because we saw the SA node and AV node, the wave travels downward, right? This is a vector, but initially if it is going to the left side and depolarize the left side of the heart, but suddenly it comes to the right side, and this change in direction gives rise to this Q wave, which is because of a depolarization of a septum. So to have a Q waves in ECG is not abnormality. We can have small Q waves in ECG, right? Now this is that point which I was talking about. Compare these two ECGs, this 1 and 2. So if I draw isoelectric line over this, then can you see that that point is touching to isoelectric line, yes or no? This point.
Yes, sir.
Yes, it is touching the isoelectric line. In this waveform A, is that point touching to isoelectric line?
No.
No. In this figure B or waveform B, is that point touching to isoelectric line?
No.
No. That means here it has climbed up and here it has gone down. So it is an elevation and this is a depression. Now this point is taking the ST segment with it. When ST segment starts, it is in conjunction with this point, which we call as a J point. So if this J point is getting elevated, it is taking this ST segment with it. So ultimately what it is causing? It is causing ST segment elevation. And what here it is causing? It is causing ST segment
Injury.
depression. Segment will not be injured. Injury will be there in the myocardium. We are talking about the waveform in ECG, right? So there are two forms now. One is elevation and another is depression. So anything above electric line, we will call it as a what? Elevation. Anything above isoelectric line, we will call it as depression. Now, anything means segment. Which segment? ST. ST segment. So up to this point, is this clear? What is a ST elevation and what is a J point elevation? What is a ST depression and what is a J point depression? So J point, if it climbs up, it will take ST segment with it, which will result into ST elevation in ECG. So this whole ST segment here, if it gets elevated, so it will look like this. Let me erase this just a moment. Yes. So right now there is a loss of this angle. This J point has come at this place and this ST segment is elevated. So if we measure the distance or amplitude or the number of small boxes at this place, they may be 6 mm. So we will call this as a 6 mm ST elevation. If it is less, we will call it as a 4 mm, etc., etc. The more the ST elevation is, the more serious the injury is, the more serious heart attack is, the more serious myocardial infarction is. If this elevation is too much, then we call it as a hyperacute MI. If it is 4 mm, it would be acute MI. But if it is more than 4 mm, 6 mm, if it is present in many of the leads, then it means that the heart attack is massive. The patient is serious. There are chances of developing arrhythmias. There are chances of developing ventricular tachycardia, ventricular fibrillation, and subsequent cardiac arrest. So if you happen to see such ECG, you should act immediately. We should give aspirin, clopidogrel, and other antiplatelets agent available to the patient, available with us to the patient, so that further aggregation of platelet can be stopped. And if those drug can initiate a thrombolysis, then patient will benefit from that treatment. So in cardiology, it is said that the time is muscle. Means if you act, or muscle is time, if you act in time, you can save the muscle. The more delay is there are chances that myocardium will get damaged in that proportion. And as I told you that in infarction, the damage is irreversible. That's why it is called as a necrosis. What are you seeing in this ECG now? This is absolutely normal ECG. The RR is regular. Every QRS complex is followed by P wave. There is a P before every QRS. The width of QRS is normal, right? And this is a synchronous sinus rhythm. But if you observe that there are several terms written in this ECG, high lateral, then what is another? Septal, inferior, anterior, lateral, etc., etc. So if you have heard about the types of MI, or if you have gone through the discharge summary or diagnosis of a patient, it is usually written like AWMI, IWMI, ASMI, right? This A stands for anterior wall myocardial infarction. I for inferior wall myocardial infarction. This is anteroseptal myocardial infarction, lateral wall MI. This is a diagnosis written on the ECG as well as on the angiographic reports, and on discharge summaries. So depending on the area of a heart involved, this terminology is given to the diagnosis. So if it is anterior, that means patient has changes in the ECG in these 2-3 leads, 1, 2, and 3. What are these leads?
Anterior.
V2, V3, and V4. So if there is a ST elevation in these leads, ST elevation in these leads, that MI means myocardial infarction. If there is ST elevation in these 3 leads, V2, V3, V4, that MI would be anterior MI or anterior wall myocardial infarction. If the patient has changes in leads 2, 3, and AVF, which MI it would be?
Inferior wall
Inferior wall MI. Inferior wall MI, right? So this is a territory of inferior MI. And if the patient has lateral MI, high lateral MI, in which leads we are expecting to see the changes?
V5, V6.
V5, V6 is a lateral, and high lateral is
First one.
first and AVL, both this. First and AVL, right? If you want a patient to have inferolateral MI,
second, third, AVF, V5 and V6.
V5 and V6, great. So based on the findings in ECG and based on the leads where you are seeing the ST elevation, you will be categorizing the MI. And this is where the importance of knowing the axis lies, because we saw that day that the heart is seen by different leads in different angles. Like left side is seen by leads AVL and lead 3. So that particular lead will be recording the changes occurring in that area, and likewise. So depending on the leads where the ST elevation or ST depression or T inversion is seen, the category of MI will be defined or determined. So based on this only, I'll ask you to diagnose some of the ECGs which I have pasted in this presentation. So this is about J point. Now I guess you can see what exactly the J point is and where it is situated. So J point is beginning of T wave from S wave. So this is not a J. In fact, this is J here. This is J and this is J. Now in which figure or in which picture the angle of J point is lost? A or B or C?
C.
T.
C. So you can see that there is a sharpness over here. Here also there is a sharpness, but that sharpness is not there. So this is called as a loss of J point. Means loss of J point angle. So you cannot point out where exactly this particular point is in this figure. So this is a sign of abnormality. This is a warning. This is danger. Right? In where is the J point depression? In which figure the J point depression is demonstrated?
D.
D. J point elevation E. J point elevation E. Now there is there a loss of J point here?
Yes, sir.
No. You can see the J here. It is elevated. Here there is a loss of J point in this figure. Are you getting me?
Yes, sir.
Yes,
Sir,
this
what is
contour, this
this
contour. Yes, this is slurred, no? This is slurred. Anna, this is slurred. You can see that point sharpness of an angle is still there in this diagram here. This point is there, no?
Okay, sir.
Yes, but this sharpness is not there. You cannot tell where this S wave has ended and where this T wave or ST segment has started. In this figure, it is difficult to point it out. But here you can tell that this is a J point. No doubt there is a J point elevation. Here the J point is elevated. And the wave which is starting after this is a J wave. So this is ST elevation. And how much is the ST elevation? Can you calculate? This is isoelectric line. How much? I'll zoom it out.
3 mm.
3 mm. This, not this. So we'll be calculating this. This is roughly 3 mm. So this patient has 3 mm of ST elevation. And what is this? In the figure given below,
Depression.
ST depression. ST depression. So which is injury and which is infarct?
Infarct is depression and elevation is injury.
No. This is also injury. This is also injury. But this can be ischemia also. Ischemia to injury, and this is injury for sure. ठीक है? Injury
Yes,
to
sir.
infarct. Injury to infarct. So can you see ST elevation here? No. Can
No,
you
sir.
see ST depression here? No. But there is one abnormality in this ECG. This is a T. The T is
Inversion of T.
inverted. है ना? So this is T inversion. T inversion is also a sign of ischemia. Here there is no T inversion. The ST is flat. And this is also a problem. Usually it should have a T wave, well-defined T wave. But if we can't see T wave and if we see that ST segment is a flat, then that also is a problem. So these all are abnormalities which we need to identify in the ECG so as to reach the early diagnosis. So these are 3 waveforms depicted here so that you can differentiate them well. So this is a normal, this is a depressed, and this is elevated. So this is isoelectric line. So this much is the depression, right? This is isoelectric line and this much is the elevation. So acute coronary syndrome, a constellation of symptoms resulting from acute MI or acute ischemia. And ACS resulting in myocardial injury is termed myocardial infarction. This we have seen. And ACS includes the diagnosis of unstable angina, non-ST elevation MI, and ST elevation MI. Till now, what we have seen, we have talked about MI only, myocardial infarction. And what we have discussed then, that there is a ST elevation. So in myocardial infarctions, where there is a ST elevation, they are called as a STEMI or STEMI. These are the myocardial infarctions where the ECG has well-defined, well-differentiated, elevated ST segment. And these are dangerous forms of MI. There is another form of MI where it is not essential to have ST segment elevated. In that situation also there can be underlying injury, but there is no ST elevation. So even if injury is there, but there is no ST elevation, we will call it as MI. But in that case, it will not be an ST elevation MI. What it would be? It would be non-ST elevation MI. If there is no elevation and if there are no signs of injury, but STT changes are there, STT. STT changes in the form of ST depression or T inversion, anything, but there is no damage to the muscle myocardium. In that situation, that acute coronary syndrome is called as an unstable angina. So we will see how they are classified. The STEMI and ACS were patient present with chest discomfort and ST segment elevation in ECG. Non-STEMI and unstable angina are ACS where patients present with ischemic chest discomfort associated with transient or permanent non-ST elevation ischemic ECG changes. Now focus on this word transient. So if we record the ECG of a patient at 10 a.m. and it had shown that there is a ST elevation, and after 15 minutes if you again record the ECG and this ST elevation is settled, that means that this ST elevation is transient, it is not permanent. In that situation also, this will not classify the definition of a STMI. This will not satisfy the definition of STEMI. In order to label the MI as ST elevated MI, there has to be ST elevation for sufficiently longer time or permanent elevation. If it is transient, in that situation also it will not be called as a STEMI. So is this confusing?
No, sir.
No, right. So this is a classification of acute coronary syndromes. If there is a ST elevation or there is a no ST elevation. If there is a ST elevation, that is ST elevation MI. If there is no ST elevation, non-ST elevation MI. Non-ST elevation MI is further divided into two categories: unstable angina and non-ST elevation MI. So if there is a no rise in the enzymes, now we will see what these enzymes are. If the enzymes or cardiac biomarkers are normal, then that is unstable angina. And there are two important cardiac biomarkers which are observed or tested in acute myocardial infarction or acute coronary syndromes. One is a CKMB and another is troponin. Troponin I or troponin T. So these enzymes are released in blood when the myocardial tissue gets damaged. So if we have a patient who has a chest pain and there are changes in ECG which are not sufficient to label the patient as having myocardial infarction, there is no clear-cut ST elevation or there are no dynamic STT changes. In that situation, in order to reach to the diagnosis, these parameters or biomarkers, cardiac biomarkers are tested in the laboratory. And if these levels of these biomarkers are increased, then it is called as a non-ST elevation MI. Why infarction? Because there is a rise or elevation in these biomarkers. That's why it is MI. Why it is non-ST elevation? Because there is no ST elevation. So no ST elevation, but the biomarkers are increased. In that situation, it is non-ST elevation MI. This is also serious, but it is not that serious as ST elevation myocardial infarction is. If there are STT changes other than ST elevation, anything, T inversion, ST depression, but enzymes are normal, in that situation, that ACS is called as a unstable angina. So unstable angina, non-ST elevation MI, and ST elevation MI. So as we label these three independently, the seriousness will gradually be more. ST elevation MI will be more serious than non-ST. Non-ST will be more serious or equally serious than that of a unstable angina. But all three are classified or called as acute coronary syndromes. So this is a normal heart and it's getting supplied by the healthy coronary artery, which doesn't have any stenosis or any plaque or block anywhere. And this myocardium is getting fully oxygenated blood in the quantity it requires, and whatever demand it gives to the blood vessel, that demand is sufficed, that in that quantity only the blood is getting supplied to the heart muscle. So this is septum and this is inferior wall of a myocardium. So you can see that this artery is emerging from here and it is supplying to this area of a heart. Just give me a moment. Imagine if there is a plaque. If there is a block over here, if this is a proximal region of artery, and if it becomes stenosed, if there is a stenosis or a plaque or a thrombus at this place, what will happen? What will happen? There will be no blood flow. From this point onward, there will be no blood flow. So this area will suffer ischemia, right? If the plaque is situated in the mid of the artery, not proximally, if it is in the middle of artery, then the area affected will be this. If it is distal, the area affected will be this. So which is more serious? Stenosis at proximal, mid, proximal, right? So this proximal vessel, if it gets blocked, then the area affected will be more. And if you see the angiography reports of a patient, you will come across that the cardiologist has written there that proximal right coronary artery has 80% stenosis, 90% stenosis, or whatever the amount or extent of stenosis is. And based on that, the advice to undergo angioplasty or bypass is given accordingly to the patient. So if it is a proximal stenosis, then need of intervention is urgent. It becomes urgency. If it is distally and relatively less area is covered by that vessel, then that patient can buy some time to undergo a procedure. But if the stenosis is above, at the origin of a vessel, and if it is the left main coronary artery or left anterior descending coronary artery, in that situation the intervention becomes necessary and urgent. So I have told you how the ST elevation MI is diagnosed, and in order to confirm the diagnosis, the ST elevation should be in at least 2 adjacent leads. So when we categorized the localization of MI, you can see that there is no single lead which is singly representing any area. There are combination of at least 2 leads. In high lateral, there is 1 and AVL. In inferior, there is a 2, 3 and AVF. In anterior, there are 3 leads, V2, V3, V4. Right? So everywhere there is a combination of more than 1 lead. So that's why it is said that the ST elevation has to be there in more than 1 lead, in 2 contiguous lead, in order to label it as a myocardial infarction. Now we will talk about Q wave. So normal Q wave are like this. So if you happen to see a patient where this, Q is, so this hole is a Q. So this Q develops abnormal electrical conduction. or when there is a necrosis, or even after necrosis when there is a fibrosis. In that situation, the Q wave will appear. And in most of the cases where the Q wave appears, in those patients, the myocardial infarction is transmural in nature. What is a transmural? Transmural means full wall thickness damage. Sorry, THI, thickness, full wall thickness MI. So if this is a width or a muscle mass of a ventricle, and if all the area is infarcted, injured completely, this whole muscle myocardium, then it is called as a transmural. But if the damage is partial, means 1/3 or 20% or 30% of the area is damaged, then that is not called as a transmural. In that situation, it becomes subendocardial or partial wall thickness MI. Earlier, what it was? It was a full wall thickness MI. So, which is more dangerous?
Full wall is more dangerous.
Full wall is more dangerous because that will be causing damage in that proportion. And if the coronary artery, which is supplying to the myocardium, if it supplies to the bundle branches, like this is septum, and from this area this left bundle branch arises. So if this artery is supplying to bundle branches, and if it is stenosed at this place, then will it be able to supply these branches? No. So then there will be a blockage or block of these bundle branches also, and the changes which are seen in bundle branch blocks, LBBB and RBBB, they will also be apparent in ECG. So if there are changes suggestive of ST elevation, myocardial infarction, as well as bundle branch blocks, then that patient is considered to be more serious than isolated MI. Are you getting me? One patient who is having anterior wall MI and another patient who is having anterior wall MI plus LBBB. Then what does this mean? This means that the vessel which is blocked or stenosed has affected or caused damage to the left bundle branch also. So if there is a left bundle branch block, will there be a good conduction of electricity in that area?
No.
No. So will that area contract with ease? No. Already there is a hypokinesia. Because of infarction, the muscle mass has become weak and it is not able to pump the blood with full capacity. The ejection fraction, which should be 60%, normal ejection fraction. What is ejection fraction? Yes. If you don't know, then let me tell this also to you. Should I?
Yes, sir.
Yes. So at the end of diastole, end diastolic volume, the LV has around 120 ml of blood in it. But when systole starts, it doesn't eject the blood completely. It ejects around 70 ml of it. So for the practical purposes, we will consider it as a 72 ml. So this is a stroke output. So if this 120 ml is 100%, what this 72 ml will be? It will be 60%. So what is a fraction of a blood which is ejected out? That is a 60%. So this is EF. And if you see the echocardiography report, at the bottom of echocardiogram or echocardiographic interpretation, the cardiologist will write LVEF 60%. In case of acute myocardial infarction, if the echo is done, that patient will not have EF of 60%. And he will have EF of say 45% or 30%, depending on the area of muscle involved. Right? So this is good LV function, good LV function. This is a fair and this is poor. So if a patient is seen in ICU where there is anterior MI and there is a reduction in the ejection fraction also, that means that MI has caused enough damage to the patient. And this patient will have now this LV dysfunction also. Apart from ACS, what he has developed LV dysfunction also. And in echocardiography, you will be finding that the statements like RWMA are written, regional wall motion abnormality. If it is anterior MI, then cardiologist will be writing anterior. If it is inferior, then he'll be writing inferior. So you can correlate these findings on echocardiography with the findings on electrocardiography. So this is normal electrocardiogram. Focus on this. What is the difference in figure 1 and figure 2?
In figure 1, T wall is T interval is up and ST segment is up in interval 2 in 2.
So in lead 1, you can see that there is a tall T. This is abnormal T wave. Normally, the amplitude of T wave is not this much. The T wave should look like this. And this has gone up. This means if the ECG is showing tall T wave, this is an early sign of myocardial injury. So if you are expert enough to pick up the abnormalities in the ECG, and if you are having a patient with some mild chest pain or chest discomfort, and if you find that if ECG is showing T wave, tall T wave in that, then it is alarming sign to refer that patient to a cardiologist. So this is a first abnormal sign, early sign of a myocardial infarction. There is no ST elevation as of now. If the pain progresses further or if the ischemia progresses further, then what is happening here? The ST segment has gone up. This is ST elevation. Is there any change in the length of Q wave in figure 1 and figure 2?
No.
There is some change. Some change. Right? And here the Q wave may be of 1 millimeter or so, and in this figure it is 2 mm. There is a slight increase in the length of a Q wave. Now, what about changes in lead 3 or figure 3?
Q wave is
More
depressed.
Yes, and Q wave is formed. It is more visible. What about the height of R wave? Is it same or getting decreased?
Increased.
Decreased.
Decreased. Yes. Was there a T wave in in figure 2? No. In figure 3,
No.
is there a T wave?
Yes.
Inverted T wave.
Yes, inverted T wave. Means what is happening in figure 3, the Q is getting formed and the ST elevation is settling. ST elevation is settling. This means that myocardium has now started surrendering to the situation. It has accepted the defeat and it has allowed that muscle to die. That's why there is a formation of Q wave. This Q wave was not there earlier. Now this Q wave is seen, and this Q wave is seen after few hours, maybe after 12 hours or 24 hours or 2 days or 3 days. And now you can see in subsequent figures that the height of a Q is increasing and the height of a R wave is decreasing. Right? And in last figure, is there ST elevation?
No.
Is there negative T wave?
Yes.
No, there is no negative T wave. This T wave is upright. Here
In
the T
fifth
wave
day.
is negative. Yes. So this is after months. When a patient comes to you after 6 months or 1 year, and if you see that this type of a Q wave is there in ECG, that means this patient has had infarction which is quite old. So based on the ECG finding only, before the patient start telling his complaints, if you ask the question to him, Kaka ji, आपको heart attack कब आया था, right? And ये कब कैसे जाना आपने ECG को देखकर? So he cannot deny. He will tell that yes, I had MI 1 year ago, 2 year ago, 6 months ago, and likewise. So what this different waveform are showing? They are showing the evolution of myocardial infarction. Evolution of myocardial infarction. When patient comes to you in this stage, the time period which is there for early intervention like thrombolysis or primary angioplasty, coronary angioplasty, that has gone. So you cannot offer early intervention to the patient, because even if you do intervene or thrombolize or do angioplasty in a patient, the damage of myocardium which has already occurred cannot be reversed. So this is a diagram where you can see the vessels, coronaries or coronary arteries supplying to the heart. And there are two main branches, left and right. And this left supplies to a major area of a heart. And there are subsequent branches of this left main coronary artery. It is often abbreviated as LCA or LMCA. So if it gets blocked here, that condition is called as a left main coronary artery stenosis. And in all such patients, the only intervention which is offered is coronary artery bypass grafting. Nowadays, cardiologists have started doing angioplasty in this vessel also, but that is only done by the cardiologists who have experience and skill to do this. Because what will happen, the moment they will engage the wire or stent or balloon at this place, the whole circulation gets blocked, and that can be a problem for the patient. So this left anterior descending, this is a branch of left main coronary artery, which is called as a left anterior descending artery, which further divides into D1, diagonal 1 and diagonal 2 branches. So can you tell me if the patient has damage, block here, which MI he or she will develop if there is a stenosis or thrombus at this place? Anterior or inferior?
Anterior.
Anterior. Why? The answer is right. Why?
Sir,
Yes.
because the position is anteriorly present instead of inferiorly. The branch is anterior branch. So
Yes, because this vessel is supplying to the anterior part of myocardium, anterior area of myocardium, right? So if the stenosis is at this place, then it would be inferior part. Inferior part. So if you see a patient with inferior wall myocardial infarction, likely which artery will be blocked? It would be right coronary artery. Right coronary artery. So right coronary artery also has three branches. One is acute marginal, and then there is AV nodal branch and posterior descending artery. So in majority of the patients, this right coronary artery is supplying to AV node also. So if there is a CHB, complete heart block, or AV block, which artery is likely has caused stenosis or ischemia, it is right coronary artery. So you will see that most of the patients who have inferior MI have associated heart blocks also, which are transient in nature. The moment this RCA, means right coronary artery, is opened, these blocks will vanish. So these are transient heart blocks. So this is the same arterial network in the heart viewed from another angle, and this is viewed from another angle. Now let us revise. What is this? This is ST elevation. So is there J point elevation here?
Yes.
Yes, right. So this much is the ST elevation. ये पूरा के पूरा is ST elevation, and this ST elevation looks like this thumb stone. This shape of a stone is called as a thumb stone. So this pattern is called as a thumb stoning. So this is ST elevation MI. Now quiz. All should unmute their audios and should answer fast. In this ECG, in which leads you are able to see ST elevation?
V2, V3, V4,
Yes,
and
right.
V5.
Again, there are few more leads, but maximum is in this. Yes, in 1 and
First and
AVL.
AVL.
Yes, first and AVL. But here the J point is still preserved, still somewhat. But more than ST elevation, what is prominent here? Tall T. There is ST elevation, no doubt, but the T is tall. So what this MI is? This is anterior myocardial infarction. And which artery is likely involved?
Left coronary artery.
Is left anterior descending. लेफ्ट मेन इन्वॉल्व हो जाएगी तो बहुत सारे एरिया अफेक्ट हो जाएगा. नाउ दिस सीसीजी, कम ऑन क्विक.
V1, V2, V3.
V1, V2, V3.
V3.
Yes, so with this, which this MI is?
Anterior wall MI.
Anterior, more anteroseptal, because this is
Anteroseptal.
anteroseptal. Here there are only two leads which are having ST elevation in this ECG.
First and AVL.
Yes, first and AVL. So this is lateral, and that too high lateral. Is there any ST depression in any of the leads?
Yes, sir.
Which
In
leads?
third lead. Third
Two.
AVF.
2, 3 and AVF.
Second, third, and
one AVL it is elevation, 2, 3 F it is depression. So this is called as a reciprocal ST depression, and this is a classical of a myocardial infarction. So in the leads opposite to the leads where the infarction is, the leads which are facing opposite the infarcted area will record ST depression. And there are two possible mechanisms involved in this. Either that area has developed a reduction in the perfusion because maximum blood flow is probably getting diverted to the infarcted area, or the leads are seeing that opposite area and they are getting that view recorded from this angle. So if lead AVL sees the right side of the heart, it will record then ST depression in that ECG, in those leads, and that is called as a reciprocal ST depression. Yes, this ECG V1, V2, V3,
V1 to V5.
V5. So this is an extensive means there is a more area involved, extensive anterior MI.
First and AVL also.
First and AVL also. That means there is a proximal stenosis. This stenosis is either in the left anterior descending artery or left main coronary artery, and this is one of the most dangerous forms of MI. Now this is even more dangerous than that. Why? Because there is a ST elevation everywhere, and these three leads, 2, 3 AVF, they are having ST depression. Rest of the leads are having ST elevation, and that too ST elevation how much? Can you calculate? This is isoelectric line. This 1 plus 5 plus 5. Yes,
to 12
11 mm. 11 mm. So you can imagine that how serious this patient would be. This is again anterior MI. So you got what I want to convey. And depending on the area or depending on the leads which are showing ST elevation, the diagnosis of the MI is made. Now, can you make the diagnosis for this ECG? ST elevation is seen in
V6.
First,
yes, it is no, it is 2
second, third, V5, V6.
AVF also. Second,
AVF.
third AVF. So this is inferior.
Inferior wall MI
Yes.
with
And
reciprocal changes in anterior and septal leads.
yes, correct. क्या नाम है बेटा आपका? Are you student or teacher?
Student, sir.
कौन से कॉलेज में हो?
SGR Solapur.
Good, good, good. So this is ST depression, right? This is ST depression, and this is ST elevation. So there is ST elevation in inferior leads. There is ST elevation in lateral leads. Now there is ST depression here, V1, V2, V3. But there is a catch. The reciprocal changes usually are not observed in V1 and V2. If there is a ST depression in V1 and V2, that indicates that patient has a posterior MI. So this MI is what? Inferior, infero, postero, lateral. Got it? Now, based on the findings which I have mentioned here, that ST depression in V1 and V2, then there is a posterior MI. So can you tell me the same thing is observed in this lead?
Yes, sir.
Yes, right. So there is some ST elevation in 2, 3 AVF, and there is ST depression in V1, V2, V3. So this is a posterior extension, inferior STEMI with posterior extension.
Sir,
So yes,
MI do not have any role with AVR.
yes, it has. It has, and if there is a ST elevation in AVR, that is one of the most dangerous sign. Then when there is a ST elevation in AVR, it means that 99% of the patient will have left main coronary artery stenosis, right? But usually the AVR is having all the waveform in
Negative form.
negative form.
Huh.
So that's why ST elevation is not visible in that lead. But if it is seen, then that is one of the most dangerous sign. It will like appear like this. So this elevation in AVR is one of the most dangerous signs. So
Okay,
far
sir.
we have talked about the infarction of a left ventricle. So there are situations where the patient can have infarction of a right ventricle also, which cannot be captured well by placing the leads on the left side of the chest. So in that situation, what is done if right RV infarction is suspected, then the leads are placed over the right side of the chest, like this V2R, V3R, and ECG is recorded. If that is showing elevation in leads which are placed over the right side of the heart, then that is titled or labeled as a right ventricular infarction. Yes. So this is the same patient, day 1 and day 2. So can you appreciate the difference? Day 1 and day 2. So there is a clear-cut ST elevation in this figure. The ST is settling. ST elevation, settling ST. ST elevation, ST settled. So this is evolving or evolved MI, which I have told you that when the myocardium surrenders or it is treated or the artery is opened, in that situation, we say that the MI is evolved. Right? Now, in this figure, apart from ST elevation, what else you can see?
PR depression.
PR depression. So this blue line is a isoelectric line. This PR segment should be on this isoelectric line, but it has got depressed, and there is a ST elevation. So is that ST elevation significant? No. Is it severe? No. There is some ST elevation, right? And this ST elevation, some ST elevation is there in this lead also, this lead also, this lead also, right? In anterior leads also and in inferior leads also, which should not be the case. So if this sort of ST elevation is there and there is a some PR depression. So is this lead having PR depression?
Yes, sir. Slight.
Yes, there is slight PR depression. Is this lead having PR depression? Yes.
Yes, sir.
All
Yes, sir.
leads have some PR depression and some ST elevation. So this is not MI. This is a classical picture which is observed in cases of a pericarditis. So as you study further in your fourth year or internship or PG, then you'll come across such patients. And at this point of time, you should remember that you should see the direction of a PR segment also, or whether it is depressed or elevated. So this is ECG of a pericarditis. Now this ECG, the similar ECG I had posted, or I had placed in my PPT day before yesterday also. And 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2. What is this? Yes.
Pericardial effusion.
Pericardial effusion, because the height of R wave is changing, and we had labeled this type of a pattern as a electrical alternance. And why this happens? Because whenever there is a fluid surrounding the pericardium, and if then this heart will be swinging, because there is a fluid here, so it will swing. During one bit it will go in this direction, another bit it will go in this direction. So one bit will be carrying the current to the chest in a different intensity, and another swing will carry the current in a different intensity. So that intensity will keep on varying. So if it goes away from the leads, the deflection will be less. If it comes close to the leads or close to the chest, the deflection will be more. And this is why probably there is a difference in the height of R wave, and every R wave is decreased as far as length or amplitude is concerned. So this is electrical alternance, and this is a feature of a massive pericardial effusion. And these patients, they have chance of developing what? Tamponade. Tamponade means the effusion will be so huge that this LV will not be able to expand. And if there is no expansion, there is no scope of relaxation. If there is no relaxation, there is no diastole. No diastole means no filling. No filling of blood means there is no blood. So no blood means no ejection. That ejection will be empty. The coronary arteries will not get any blood flow, and the patient will develop cardiac arrest. So this is also one of the serious conditions. So I think I should stop here. And if you have any questions, then you can ask. So was it simple or was it still complicated?
Sir, can you put that chart V1, V2, V3 wala? I have to take screenshot.
Yes, just a moment. This? Hmm?
Yes, sir.
Hmm.
Sir, I have a question.
Hmm.
Sir, when we diagnose for that right ventricular infarction, so we
Hmm.
put the leads on the opposite side, chest leads.
Not
So, sir,
opposites on right side of the chest.
so sir, then dextrocardia might be seen na, in ECG.
When we put the leads only on right side, then dextrocardia will be seen.
Okay.
But we have a baseline ECG of a patient as a reference ECG also, no? So
Yes,
at the first instance, we will not go for recording of a right-sided chest leads. We will have the first ECG
First
recorded
medicine.
normally also. Are you getting me?
Yes, sir.
So if yes, and then second, third, subsequent ECG will be recorded by placing the leads over right side of the chest. And dextrocardia will have all the waveforms negative.
Yes, and AVR will be positive.
Yes, and that will have P wave also negative,
Yes.
which will not be the case in this RV infarction. Right? So should we stop, or if there are still any questions, I am ready to answer. Ma'am, have you got that answer of why that height of the R wave keeps on changing in electrical alternance? I think she is not there. No problem. So Deepa ma'am, we can conclude now.
Yes, sir. So Prachi, would you please take over? Just a minute here. I would like to say that Ravi sir, accepted to deliver the lecture on the first day at the last moment, and it was really a very nice gesture on his part. So I must say, as a HOD, I must say thank you from my side and from whole of my department, sir. So
Thank
Prachi,
you. Thanks a lot for giving me the
Prachi,
opportunity
so
to
just a
learn basically.
just a minute. We have to complete the actually all the things. Dr. Ujjwala will be delivering the thanks, no? So Prachi, please continue.
Yes. Thank you so much, sir. Now I request Dr. Ujjwala to give a thanks.
On behalf of YMT Ayurvedic Medical College and Kriya Sharir Department, I am Dr. Ujjwala More. Thankful to Dr. Raviraj Pardeshi sir for delivering such a very informative and very wonderful lecture. I hope all participants must have gained knowledge from this lecture. Thank you very much, sir. I now declare that today's session is over. We will meet tomorrow at the same time. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, Deepa ma'am. Thank you, Department of Physiology, for allowing me to share the knowledge whatever I have, and hope we will meet soon again, maybe face to face.
Yes, sir. Definitely.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Good
Thank
day.
you, sir.
Goodbye.
Thank you. Good night.
Thank you, sir.